Poland, 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 the beautiful place of my birth, full of remarkable landmarks and resilient people who recently witnessed something that should be unthinkable in a civilized society: a far-right presidential candidate terrorizing a hospital and holding a doctor hostage over a legal medical procedure performed months ago, all while the police watched and stood idle. This is the state of corruption in our country, and when it comes to Polish politics, there is no bottom of the barrel. Welcome everyone, I'm Chris, and in today's video I'm going to tell you about Grzegorz Braun, somebody I already insulted in the past videos and on my streams multiple times, somebody who I will insult many a times in the future, and somebody I'll be insulting today. A far-right fundamentalist who on 16th of April rolled into a hospital where a pretty rare and extreme form of abortion procedure recently took place, found the doctor who carried this procedure out, and held her hostage with 30 sycophants who accompanied him by blocking the doorway, yelling insults at her, and not allowing her to leave the room. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, in the great land of Poland, if you happen to be a notorious politician and a doctor performs a function you have a moral disagreement with, even when the function itself is perfectly legal and really comes as a result of incompetence of other doctors who downplayed just how bad of a state the unborn baby was in, you get to, with seemingly no consequence, show up at that doctor's place of employment and hold them hostage. Not even to stop the procedure from being carried out, as it was already over and done with 6 months prior, but just as a show of protest. If you happen to be a regular citizen like myself, which you most likely are if you're watching this video, you have to understand how this exemplifies a caste system where the rule of law only applies to the poor and the uninfluential. Early reports of this situation informed us that Braun didn't just insult the doctor and forbade her from leaving, no, he also violated her bodily autonomy by shoving her. The prosecutor's office, who began an investigation into what the fuck just happened, also told us that the doctor, as you know, the one that was held hostage, was the only specialist at the gynecology ward of the district hospital in Oleśnica, which in turn could have led to a direct danger of loss of life or serious damage to the health of other present patients and their unborn children. So on top of being a regular far-right nutter, this oaf's pro-life stance is so well thought out that instead of launching a regular protest, which unlike what he did would have been legal because the event he is protesting already took place half a year ago, he decided to put unborn babies at risk. Given that insanity, you might wonder what prompted this kind of a response from him. A very late stage 9th month abortion, something so extraordinarily rare that you'd be forgiven for thinking it must be accompanied by equally extraordinarily rare circumstances. If you do think that, you're already one step ahead of Braun. And you're also correct. I'll link some material down below for those of you who want the full story, but the crux of the issue here is seemingly rooted in the laziness of doctors, either their pro-life stance or just fear of consequences given how strict abortion laws in Poland are, and sheer and overwhelming incompetence. I'll give you guys a broad overview, but I cannot stress enough how fucked what happened really is, so I warmly encourage all of you to read up on the links I'll include down below. For my foreign audience, you'll have to use a translate function, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask for details in my Discord. I'll do the best I can translating if the online functions fail you. The heart of this story begins at the 20th week of pregnancy, about a midway point, when routine checkups revealed a bent bone in the unborn child. What followed was a devastating cascade of medical negligence. Despite finding increasingly concerning issues, the doctors consistently downplayed the severity of what was taking place. Each round of advanced tests revealed more problems, yet the mother was repeatedly told not to worry. By the 7th month, doctors were still minimizing the shortened and bent femur bones, even sharing anecdotes about children living normal lives with similar conditions. The truth, however, began unraveling when DNA tests confirmed the presence of a pathogen. At a point soon thereafter, the mother went to a private hospital to get them to re-look at all of the results and was told her situation is dire enough that she needs to immediately go to a hospital and be put on a watch, as her situation is far worse than she was told. When she tried following that advice, she was bounced between hospitals. The one in Łódź had no room, the one in Pabianice doctor, not too much further away, claimed everything was fine and that she should not waste their time. And then suddenly, the hospital in Łódź called her back, insisting she needs immediate monitoring for potential hypoxia, as she could be given birth any minute. It wasn't until the 34th week, through an encounter with medical students discussing her case out loud in front of her, that the mother finally learned the horrifying reality. As the students observed her scans, their comments revealed what the doctors had hidden: severely bent legs, multiple broken bones, and a host of devastating deformities. The most crushing revelation came from a bone specialist who was shocked that nobody had prepared the mother for the reality. These issues were visible since the 20th week. At that point, the prognosis was grim. Even if the baby survived, its bones were so fragile that a single pothole during the drive back home could prove fatal. The fractures weren't just bent legs, as previously claimed, but broken bones that had already healed incorrectly. And keep in mind, all of this is merely the tip of the iceberg. The cacophony of sin and medical incompetence the mother had to endure could by itself be a 1-hour-long YouTube video. If you wish to read on and find out more detail about this story, like I said earlier, the appropriate links are down below. But that's not what this video is about. After all of this incompetence, the mother finally decided to go down the route of legal abortion and end the baby's torment. Because that's what its existence would have been and already was. A constant cycle of pain of its bones being broken, healing incorrectly, only to be broken once again. A body bent out of shape on a child so fragile that life wouldn't be a blessing, it would be a curse, and most probably a short one while at that. The abortion procedure was had, and the mother and her husband, as well as their young son, could finally begin to grieve. A family deeply damaged by the Polish incompetent and underfunded health service. And what happened then? When the mother came forward with her story to tell us about the sheer number of doctors whose inhumane treatment of hers ripped a hole into her heart that she will never be able to fully fix, what happened? She was called a vicious murderer by various pro-life organizations, and the doctor who assisted her when so many others did not care got ambushed by our far-right presidential candidate and 30 of his sycophants. Then she was held hostage at her workplace, where she was insulted, shoved, and physically forbidden from leaving the room. An act of domestic terrorism where, through ideologically motivated violence, Braun wanted to intimidate her and others like her because of a legal procedure she carried out in accordance with the law as it is written. You could describe Braun as impulsive, abrasive, or ignorant, all suitable in their own right, but really what he is an enemy of every single law-abiding citizen in this country. This is a legitimate presidential candidate. In a functioning country of laws, he would be locked in jail for any of the other 100 unhinged things he's done, but what will happen to him instead is, well, most probably nothing. I hope I'm wrong, but he faced no consequences when he went sicko mode with a fire extinguisher in the parliament, he faced no consequences when he physically assaulted a police officer, and he will face no consequences for an act of domestic terrorism where he held a doctor hostage. He carried out an illegal action in response to the doctor's legal action, and he will face no consequence. Not only will he face no consequence, people who voted for him, or many of them I should say, actively cheer this behavior on. Here are a few examples I found on Twitter of what people had to say to this ordeal when a left-wing presidential candidate, Magda Biejat, called out his unhinged behavior. The first response we've got is from Adam Wielomski, the political skeptic who is apparently also an author and a political publicist. Is it true that children are being killed there? It wouldn't have taken him long to see that no, in fact, children are not being killed there, but apparently the ability to research and read isn't needed to do politics or be an author. The second tweet comes from some Twitter Andy, and it goes, criminal acts are taking place there, so intervention is absolutely justified. You've heard it here first, folks. Criminal acts are being done at this hospital. Criminal acts. In a Catholic, right-wing Poland, criminal acts are being done at a public hospital to children, no less. So much so that a random Twitter dumbfuck is aware of them, but somehow no appropriate action was taken. And there are more comments still. This one is from Eliasz M. Grubinski. You don't understand. They are there precisely to make sure no one gets hurt. As long as the protest is peaceful, I don't see a problem. And this dude is actually a politician, a small one running for local office, admittedly, but still, here is a wonderful representative of the Law and Justice Party who wants to have an input into how real citizens get to carry themselves, but is too dumb to spend 15 minutes doing research to determine that Braun's protest was not peaceful, and he has in fact put mothers at risk with how he decided to protest. 15 minutes is the price of literacy here. 15 minutes is all it would have taken to pass a knowledge check, and yet Elias fails. At Grok, does the left agree with killing children? I'll admit, I'm including this one as a bit of a shitpost because this is some dude asking Grok if leftists support killing children, to which Grok tells him that they do not, and for the next however many comments there are going to be by the time you can click on this, he is arguing with the AI to prove to it that it's wrong while random people laugh at him. Right-wingers fighting against AI is a hoot. It's been happening a lot lately, and I will include a link to this specific tweet down below so you can see whatever the fuck has evolved out of this discussion. This one I'm including because holy shit, do these people deserve to be bullied. So the Spinkydust person said that they're reminding everyone that this hospital only carries out procedures in accordance with the Polish law, which means that in this case only women who want to be mothers, but for some reason, such as for example defective pregnancy, cannot, are granted the abortion procedure. And what did Wojciech have to say in retort to such a powerful and factual argument? You were not a defective pregnancy and managed to be born, you smartass. Which, yeah, Wojciech, that's kind of the crux of the matter here, isn't it, mate? When the pregnancy isn't defective, they don't abort the kid. There was one more post that I wanted to show you that I bumped into when all of this was initially happening, but I can't find it now, so you don't have to believe me, but the post itself seared into my brain as soon as I've read it. What it said was, and I'm more or less quoting here, there is no evidence that the birth was defective, all we have is the word of the doctor. Ja wiem, że partia debil dla debili jest zarezerwowana dla Mencena, ale byłoby miło, gdyby te półgłówki chociaż na tydzień przestały między sobą rywalizować, kto jest bardziej zjebany. Jeszcze w tym wszystkim tylko brakowało, żeby Trzasek przyszedł, powiedział coś tępego, stracił 2 punkty popularności i sobie wrócił do domu. And to summarize where we're at, a troglodyte scumfuck politician held a doctor hostage while his troglodyte scumfuck lickspittles gassed him up, and when he was done, a bunch of other troglodyte scumfuck wankers took to social media to defend his actions, and the hospital where it all took place is now receiving threats. Our country deserves better. When you ask yourself what kind of scum votes for a far-right fundamentalist like Braun, the answer is simple: other far-right fundamentalist scum. In the regular manner of more information coming through while I'm mid-editing, I realized I didn't put enough emphasis on the fact that Braun is a broken man. And I don't mean that in an empathetic sense necessarily, I mean that he is fucked in the head. If you just listen to him, and I mean genuinely, attentively listen, you can tell that the veneer of civility hides a man that should be institutionalized, and that slips through more and more often as of recently. Monica Braun, his own sister, is trying to plead with him in a long and emotional open letter where she tells us that she can no longer stay silent because of how much hearing him in the media hurts her, as she outlines that she doesn't recognize the man she grew up with, that she is ashamed of seeing what he's doing, and that his endless arrogance makes him spiteful. I admittedly don't know much about Monica, but when someone's closest family says something like this, I tend to listen, and I think that you ought to listen too. Last night a presidential debate took place where practically every single of Braun's talking points revolved around Jews being bad and controlling Poland, Ukrainians being bad and wanting to control Poland, left-wingers being bad and wanting to let the Jews and the Ukrainians control Poland, and other right-wingers being too weak to deal with the invasion of Ukrainians and the Jews that want to control Poland. This man doesn't live in reality. He goes around breaking the law because he so deeply believes in his own conspiracies that his brain is beyond rotten. There is no grand conclusion to the story today, at least not yet, but can you guys imagine if it was yourself or your wife or your mother or your daughter or any woman you care about in that hospital getting ready to give birth, and the one specialized doctor on staff was unable to come to her assist because 30 far-right lunatics led by a presidential candidate with a history of violence and antisocial behavior held her hostage? I think if it was my fiancé on that ward giving birth, you'd be reading about me tomorrow in all of our newspapers and watching about me in all of our media. Things like this do make it clear why, despite all of the advances we make, we're still often not treated seriously on the world stage. After all, how could we be? You can't be a first world country if your parliament tolerates third world corruption. When I make videos this serious, rare as that might be, it isn't just about liking and subscribing, it's about awareness and having an opportunity for myself to rant in response to helplessness. Visit the links in the description to find organizations supporting medical transparency and women's healthcare rights in Poland. Join my Discord community where we're building a network of people committed to open dialogue in such unhinged times. Your voice matters more than you might think, and it's always good to have a place to vent in. The presidential elections are less than a month away, and while this scumbag isn't going to come close to winning, the fact itself that he is allowed to run and isn't rotting in jail is an embarrassment in and of itself. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, at least to the extent a video this grim can be enjoyed. The next few videos should be a bit lighter on the heart. Special thanks to my patrons whose names are on the screen right now. Good night and take care.